I have received a lot of requests from people curious about Yuka's grooming process, and while I am not an expert in the area of grooming, I would be happy to share the little bit of knowledge that I do have. The first step to having a well-groomed pup is going to be using the correct tools. I always start with an undercoat rake to remove the dead undercoat hair from Yuka's coat. I then move on to using a de-shedding tool. I use the one by Safari. I have found this tool to be the most effective in removing undercoat fur. Next, I use a fine-tooth comb or flea comb to really catch the feathers of fur that are coming loose. Finally, I gently use a shedding blade to remove the loose fur before bathing. I recommend brushing your dog first, then bathing them. You can brush them while bathing, and finally blow dry them and brush them one final time. While this is not a training video, I do want to take time to remind you that it is very important to desensitize your pup to each of these processes using high-value food rewards and carefully planned training sessions. Try to keep this experience as positive as possible by offering high-value treats throughout the process. I highly recommend smearing peanut butter on the bathtub to keep your pup distracted during the actual bathing process. Use a combination of classical conditioning, which is pairing a stimulus with food to condition a positive emotional response to the stimulus, and counter conditioning, which is changing an already developed negative emotional response to a stimulus into a positive one by presenting the stimulus and then offering a food reward shortly after. This process takes patience, time, and should be performed in small steps. Here is an example of me quickly reminding Yuka that the blow dryer isn't something to be afraid of. I start by turning the dryer on and then giving her a treat. I then turn it off as she finishes the treat. The point of this is to produce the idea that when the dryer turns on, I get a treat. I repeat this process until she is no longer responding to the sound of the dryer. The next step is to move the dryer closer to her and then eventually have the air touch her feet and then her body. Yuka and I have been working with the dryer since she was 8 weeks old, so I move much quicker in this training exercise than you would with a dog who has never even heard a blow dryer. As a puppy, I spent months feeding Yuka in the bathtub without water in it and slowly moved up to a full bath over time. The same was done with the sound of the blow dryer and tolerance with being brushed and having nails clipped. At one point in her training, I moved too fast with Yuka and she quickly developed a negative association with being bathed. She hated the water and would cry, fight, and whine until her bath was over. Luckily, with some counter conditioning, I was able to alter her experience of bath time. Yuka eventually associated the words bath time with something fun and exciting. She would jump into a full tub of water on her own at only 4 months old. Yuka no longer adores her bath time, but she does tolerate it and no longer thinks her life is at risk while she is getting a bath. This makes bathing much easier for both of us. The shampoo and conditioner you decide to use will be completely dependent on your dog's sensitivity. I, however, love this Earth Balance oatmeal shampoo, but if your husky is blowing your coat, you can also use a de-shedding shampoo that helps to remove that loose undercoat during the bathing process. Finally, be sure that you are not bathing your husky too often. Huskies have a very low oil coat and do not require bathing more than once a month. That being said, I recommend doing practice baths just for the sake of training. Thanks again for tuning in, and as always, please subscribe, thumbs up, comment, and share to keep these videos coming.